Oh, over. Anybody who's supposed to be here, the chair's supposed to be here?
Yes, ma'am. Give me 1 second, sorry.
I bet you we're gonna need
He's
some
gonna have to come in
space,
here.
yes.
He's gonna come in here. He's gonna come in here.
And we'll have Mrs. Boswell and Donald sitting here.
See, yeah.
Okay.
And
Courtney.
if you okay, we have 5 on the front, if everybody can kind of pile in on the steps behind.
On the steps. You want us back up?
Yep, we'll have 5 standing on this front row.
Okay.
Yep. And we have one more come down.
Courtney's
Yeah, and if y'all like to come down to this.
street is fixed.
If you'd like to come over to this side over here.
They're in the shade and we're in the sun. What happened?
I think the sun is right on my forehead. I feel it.
I'm here in Ector County. I'm actually originally live there. Yes. That's a perfect match. Middle high. I'm a bulldog for life. Mojo.
No,
It was so
I
funny.
never.
I was here in high school.
So would you mind going up and so on that top row, kind of right by, to the right of the pillar?
There.
Yep, just right. And there we go. Yep.
We did. We really did.
Do you need my heels?
I think I'm good. I think I'm good. Use your toes.
Yeah. I didn't know if you yeah. Tevin. He's talking to the coach.
And where are you? Okay. This morning. I came in last night or yesterday.
I need to get a nice Sunday ride.
Well, I've been back for about 2 weeks. Our kids start tomorrow. We
So
do a
this thing right now is supposed to teach
our
so
ninth
we're
graders
blue
start
and that
tomorrow.
green, and then the other side was the green and the blue.
Let them get acclimated, feel like they're.
We gotta get it all in.
My school colors are purple and white.
And then we bring them all in. Yes.
And so, anyway, I had to like run across town during lunch on Friday and come back in time for the UI meeting.
I'm kind of dad. Yeah.
I know.
Dad. I know. And then
Sorry. Sorry to interrupt. If we just have you step down on this first one. Perfect. There we go.
You were supposed to leave everything.
Yeah.
I guess that's big. Where's this turf? That's the turf. Where's this earth? Maybe it's in the
Secretary of State.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. Oh, yeah. I'll get the special chair. Very good.
Well, thank everybody for being out here today. I want to thank Commissioner Mike Morath for his service, and I want to thank the Texas Classroom Commission for gathering for their first meeting here today at the Governor's Mansion. I want to thank them for being educators, one of the most, if not the most important job that we have in the state. And I want to thank them for stepping up and lending their advice, their expertise on helping Texas be able to achieve our goals through the pathway of education. I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a moment, but first, let me provide you the context. The context is for the past 3 years, I've crisscrossed the entire state of Texas, telling my fellow Texans that among the #1 rankings we have in our state, it's time to add another #1 ranking. Texas must rank #1 in educating our children. Already before today, we've taken action to be able to achieve that goal. This last session, we passed the most consequential public education legislation ever in the history of our state. Among other things, we added $8 billion to fund public education. Funding public education is now at an all-time high. We added more than $4 billion for teacher pay raises. Teacher pay is now at an all-time high in the state of Texas. Because of all that funding, per pupil funding is also at an all-time high in the state of Texas. In addition to all of that, the teacher incentive allotment program has grown dramatically across the state. It has now provided more than $1.8 billion awarded in the teacher incentive allotment to teachers, actually to more than 65,000 teachers from more than 8,000 school districts across the state. The teacher incentive allotment is one of the strategies that have been adopted to be able to attract and to retain the very best teachers in schools across the state. It also is a proven strategy to have those master teachers in the TIA program educate our kids, because it shows the students who learn under these highly skilled teachers excel even better. Very importantly for our teachers, it puts them on a pathway to receiving a six-figure salary. We're seeing results already. Texas now is home to 10 of the top 100 public high schools in the United States. We've seen these successes of the teacher incentive allotment. Two examples. Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District Superintendent said that the teacher incentive allotment helps to retain 91% of their teachers, and said that their 2025 accountability rating comes from a B rating. Second one is the Forest San Juan Alamo ISD in the Rio Grande Valley. They have a record 82% of the teachers earning the teacher incentive allotment designation. More than 345 of their educators earn more than $100,000. 16 of the PSJA schools have earned an A rating. This is a pathway to better education for all of our kids. The goal now among this commission, the goal for the state of Texas, is to ensure enduring progress toward our goal of ranking #1 in America for educating our kids. That is the purpose of the Texas Classroom Commission. This is more than 20 accomplished current and former public school educators from every region in the state, chaired by Courtney Boswell McDonald of Kerrville, a former classroom teacher herself and now the current chair of the State Board for Educator Certification. The Classroom Commission has a mission to be able to achieve. The core one is to improve math and reading proficiency. We want every student to fully master those two key subject areas. A key part of being able to achieve that goal is to be able to attract and to retain the best teachers who will educate those students. And part of the task of this commission is to come up with the best strategies that will continue to attract those great teachers. And we must add some other strategies along the pathway. One is to intensify the classroom focus on things like reducing screen time. This is, in addition to a law that I signed last session, that's proven to be overwhelmingly successful. The law that banned cell phones in classrooms proved very effective. Too much screen time hinders, as opposed to helping, educating a child. The Texas Classroom Commission will meet monthly. They will deliver a final report of what they're going to be focused on before the next session begins, so that the legislature will understand the perspective of teachers and their expectation of what is needed to put Texas on the pathway to ranking #1 in education. Texas already ranks #1 in Tier 1 research universities. We were not that way when I became governor. When I became governor, I said Texas, not these other states, should rank #1 for Tier 1 research universities, and we outlined the strategy and the funding needed to be able to achieve that goal. And I can tell you now that Texas ranks #1 for Tier 1 research universities. Texas as a state, because of strategies that we've been focused on, ranks #1 in America for technology, #1 for innovation, #1 for semiconductors, #1 for space, #1 for finance. Texas now has created its own stock exchange, the Texas Stock Exchange, and has drawn competition from the legacy stock exchanges, the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ Stock Exchange, which now have regional headquarters and are doing trading in Dallas, Texas. Texas is also expanding rapidly our biotechnology industry. Obviously, we are home to the largest medical center in the entire world. We're also home to the most prolific cancer center in the entire world with MD Anderson. What MD Anderson is doing now is expanding beyond just the Houston area. Now, Austin will be expanding elsewhere across our state, and then adding to that with the new Dell School working in combination with MD Anderson to make sure that the most advanced research capabilities will be applied to solving cancer issues that we face today. In addition to that, listen, we had recent announcements about massive new facilities created in the Houston area with Eli Lilly, and then earlier today another huge facility announcement for Houston, Texas by the pharmaceutical company Bristol Myers. In addition to all that, Texas has been ranked #1 as the best state for business, #1 for the most new jobs, #1 for workforce training, which is a core element of what this task force will continue to work on. Now we solidly train our sights on making sure Texas ranks #1 in educating our kids. The Texas Classroom Commission will chart that path. Joining with me is the chair of that commission, and that is Courtney Boswell McDonald. Courtney.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As the governor said, I'm Courtney Boswell McDonald. I live in Kerrville, and it is such a privilege to serve as the chair of Governor Abbott's Texas Classroom Commission. As a former classroom teacher, I was always deeply interested in how policy shaped our daily practice, whether through assessments, data-driven instruction, compensation structures, incentive funding, grant programs, or curriculum changes. That curiosity ultimately led me to step beyond the classroom and into the education policy space. I wanted to ensure that the teacher perspective had a meaningful place in the decision-making process. It is incredibly rewarding to see that vision come full circle. I am honored to lead this commission in addition to chairing SBEC and to help create opportunities for other educators to engage in and influence the policy-making process. That has been my guiding goal since leaving the classroom. I have immense respect for the dedication of our teachers and the profound impact they have on over 5 million students across Texas. And I am grateful to have the support of our governor, who shares a strong commitment to standing with and investing in our state's educators. And I look forward to this work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. And thanks to
Absolutely.
all the commission members. I thank our commission members. One thing we know, and that is the most important perspective we can have in ensuring that we will put our students on a pathway to ranking #1 in education, which means ranking either #1 or near that in reading and math, is the perspective of teachers. I couldn't do what I'm trying to do. I don't think the legislature can do what it's going to be called upon to do next session without the perspective of the education leaders behind me right now. Be happy to take a few questions.
Yeah, with the ESA program, the Educated Savings Account rolling out, how does that apply to what we're doing here today? And what do you think so far of, are there enough low-income Texans getting advancing a chance to participate in the program as you promised when you were first rolling this out?
So you're real close to an off-topic question. I'll still answer it, and I'll take off-topic questions. We got to stay on topic first, but I'll tell you this: so that the ESA program is a program that ensures that parents are going to have the opportunity to choose the education pathway that's right for their child, knowing full well that different children require a different pathway, and now parents are empowered to choose a pathway they think is best for their child. Oftentimes when they choose that pathway under the ESA program, it will be different from public education. Our focus with this commission, our focus on what I've articulated here today for what my goal is next session, is to put Texas public education on the pathway to ranking #1 in the United States for educating our kids. even with the ESA program, something like 99% of all of our kids are still going to be educated through the public school process. We have to have the best public schools in the United States. I know the educators gathered with me here today will put us on that pathway.
Two-part question there. First, can you tell us a little bit more about how this group was chosen? And then for you, I was going to ask, what are y'all going to do to speak directly to teachers before the next session? How are you going to implement all that?
Sure. So first, with regard to the assembly of these teachers, listen, we announced the commission, open it up for applications, and everybody behind me is either someone who's been a Teacher of the Year awardee in one category or another, or participating in the Teacher Incentive Allotment, which is only provided to them because of demonstrated excellence in the classroom. Some of them have achieved both of those awards. So we kind of have the best of the best standing with me right now, who will be creating a structure for us to be able to attract even more of the best of the best. And then you had a second part of your question. Can't remember what it is.
Quick follow-up. When was that application process started?
When? July 7th.
So July 7th. And then my next question, you said y'all are going to have a framework before the next session.
Right.
How are you going to hear directly from teachers across the state to present that framework?
So one thing that the commission will embark upon is working toward several strategies to achieve these goals. They know that they will not be able to achieve that task without talking to teachers. In addition to that, we will be talking to public education teachers along the pathway. This requires input from public education teachers to make sure we are providing the types of strategies that will actually be useful to them and employable by them, as well as to superintendents and administrators to make sure that these are the types of strategies they will be able to implement.
Can I have one more if that's okay?
Go for it.
To the people who say we've seen stuff like this before, what do you say to that?
That we've delivered on promises like this before. We delivered it last session when we provided a record amount of funding for public education, which I promised, and then delivered. We showed that we did it in the past by delivering the largest teacher pay raise ever and lived up to that promise. We did it by ensuring that we would put teachers on a pathway to receiving a six-figure salary. Now we have thousands of them across the entire state earning $100,000 or more in the state of Texas because of these incentive programs. And these incentive programs have already proven very good results. So what we're taking is not something new. What we're taking is something that's already proven, already established, and working to expand this so that every school, every educator across the state is employing the best standard so that we will achieve the best results for all of our kids.
Governor, you threw up ratings for the recent school year coming out of Annalee. We've of course seen recently a kind of rise in low-performing schools, particularly in some of the largest school districts in the state, and a subsequent rise in state takeovers. So is there anything specific the commission is kind of looking at to help out, those low-performing schools, help them bring up their performance?
Sure. Yeah, and so listen, there's a goal in a way that we can move the needle dramatically is to ensure that low-performing schools have access to the best teachers. We've seen it happen already in low-performing schools when a teacher who's either part of the Teacher Incentive Allotment or a Teacher of the Year awardee, where they go to these low-performing schools and they're able to provide an education where students actually see improvements in reading, improvements in math. And so we know the strategy works. Our goal right now is to expand that strategy to all schools across the state so that all schools will be increasing their ratings.
Governor, school closures have been a big topic here in Austin and statewide. There have been over 150 since 2024. Was that part of your conversation today? And do you worry about the impact of the closure of neighborhood public schools across Texas?
So the reason for some school closures is because parents of school-aged children are moving to different locations. Know that at the very same time we have some school closures, we have new schools being built. There are new schools being built in the locations people are moving to. I can tell you for a fact why some people are leaving local schools in Austin, Texas, and that's because people are fed up with the property taxes here. Property taxes are gone through the roof, and too many young parents with kids at home, they cannot afford to live in Austin, Texas. I have the fix for that also, because I have the boldest, property tax reform that will lead to enduring property tax cuts for forever for the remainder of the time you live in your house. It provides for limiting the spending that leads to property tax increases. It requires a 2/3 approval vote before a property tax increase can ever be imposed. It reduces from 10% a year the appraisal to no more than 3% a year. It ensures that your homestead will not be used to fund public education. Instead, the state of Texas will be responsible for that part of funding public education. That will ensure your property tax bill would be cut by more than half forever.
Thank you.
Governor, slightly off topic, you said that a bunch of big AI companies have said they'll comply with your data center guidelines. Does that mean that their projects are no longer subject to the pause you ordered last week?
So, I may have misunderstood the first part of your question, but let me tell you the complete answer, and that is, I established clear guidelines and guardrails for AI data centers to operate within. It requires them to provide their own power, to provide their own water and reuse their own water, to generate electricity in a way that adds power to the power grid so that electricity prices don't go up, and to not build in local neighborhoods, and for an end to any economic incentives provided by the state of Texas. What we've seen in response to your first question is an outpouring of data centers saying they will comply with the guidelines and guardrails established by the governor. And we're seeing the floodgates open of data centers across the state, companies I've never heard of before, saying they will fully comply with the standards that I've established. No, just because they're saying they will comply, some of them are in the early stages. Some of them are in the latter stages. I'll give you an example of one in latter stages, and that's Meta, which is actually outside of the ERCOT zone, but they too said they're going to be in full compliance. One thing all these businesses understand now, and that is they have to get into compliance with the standards I've laid down. Otherwise, they're going to face challenges in their business going forward.
Related to that, you've had a couple of statewide officials come out against this 765 cable transmission project that is considering. Do you have an opinion on whether that project should go forward?
So listen, here again, we need some guidelines and guardrails on the expansion of power lines in the state of Texas. I think that the PUC, if I understand correctly, they have further actions to be taken on this. Nothing is imminent on this right now, but I think that it's up to the PUC to make further announcements on this. Hold 1 second. A bus is passing. I can't hear you. Go for it now. Sure. Listen, I know that by putting the pause on data centers in the state of Texas is the absolute right thing to do. And I can give you easy math reasons for that. The highest amount of power the state has ever provided at any moment in time is 91 gigawatts of power. The current demand by the AI data centers in the queue right now is more than 500% of that, more than 470 gigawatts. It is mathematically impossible for the power grid to be able to have that level of power demand on a grid. But to make matters worse, in the last session, legislation required all data centers to provide to the PUC information about their current power usage as well as future power usage, in addition to current water usage and future water usage. Less than 10% of those businesses responded to that information request. That would be like giving you a 100-piece puzzle, saying you have to solve this, but I'm only going to give you 9 pieces of the puzzle to build out the entire puzzle. That's a position that PUC and ERCOT have been put in, and I say we cannot do business that way. We need all of the information available before any decisions can be made about ERCOT, how to provide power across the entire state. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm a little warm.
It is what it is out here in summer in Texas.